My name is Tom Gray, and I'm with my colleague Susan Crossman. We represent Content with Clout. Our purpose is to help our clients to use content to market themselves, establish authority, bring traffic, and earn customers. And we are pleased to have a person whose clout definitely, excuse me, whose content definitely has clout, Rebecca Morgan, CSP, CMC. And Rebecca specializes in helping information professionals make money from their intellectual capital in their jammies. She's appeared on 60 Minutes, Oprah, The Wall Street Journal, National Public Radio, Forbes.com, and USA Today. Rebecca is the best-selling author of 25 books. And when's the 26th coming out, Rebecca? And welcome.
Well, thank you. It's always a work in progress, isn't it?
It always is. So just to kind of start things out, one of the things that you catch when you read your intro is this whole business about helping people make money in their jammies. So let's start off with that. You're known for helping people make money in their jammies from their intellectual capital. So what's the first stumbling block you find that your clients have when approaching that concept or being introduced to that concept?
Well, first of all, they can't believe that it can happen. It takes a little while for them to unplug from the concept of I have to show up somewhere in order to get revenue. So it's a mind shift, first of all. And then second of all, they aren't sure what to produce that would make money. So they don't know what their clients would buy. And I have been guilty of building it and they have not come. So building products that weren't sellable. So when I work with people now, we really try to do a lot of market research to find out what people will buy, what they're currently buying, what they're paying for it in order to decide what's worth my client's time to develop.
So what kind of products then would that be, Rebecca?
Oh man,
can you give us some examples of the type of products?
The range is vast. So as simple as books, ebooks, e-reports that are monetizable, webinars, teleseminars, courses, online courses, subscriptions where people pay a monthly fee to either have a membership site or to get ongoing education, coaching, videos, presentations. You know, it's so vast that I try to pick what I think my client could sell, that they are able to do well, and that the clients want it in that medium.
So that's a part of the service that you offer with your clients, is that you actually work with them to determine what that right product might be.
Right, where the sweet spot is, because sometimes then they have to stretch and grow. Like I'm doing a course right now where we have 4 weeks and it's all about developing a webinar, and I have people who have known they need to do that but don't have the clue how to get started. So we take them step by step through that process. So, looking at what do they have to offer, what is marketable, because there is so much free information on the internet now, but that's actually a good thing if we can really cull it down to whatever the people are looking for, make it actionable. That saves them hours and hours and hours of doing their own research online if we can really make it something that the end user can apply immediately.
So you're creating content in a way, marketable content, but I guess you also need to help them create content that drives people to their marketable products as well? Yeah. Is that part of the process?
That is part of the process. Typically, they have their own mailing list. They have fans already. They have client base. That they don't have to get strangers to come to them. It's so much easier to sell to people who've already bought from you and already know and like you. So we really try to focus on those folks first, because that's so much easier.
Right.
And what if they don't? What if they're just getting started? I know you've very active in the with speakers in the speaker industry, and you get people coming in, want to be speakers. They want to start selling stuff and so forth. What What if they don't have that list established yet? If they don't have that base established, do you have any advice for those people?
Well, it's simple advice, and it's not unique to me, but it's joint venture or partner with people who want to reach the same people or who already have a list. So let's say you're a newer speaker, but you've spoken to some groups, often local association chapter meetings. So go to them and say, would you be interested in joint venturing on a webinar series for your members, something like that. And the key term for them is non-dues revenue. So all associations are constantly looking for ways to get more money, but without raising the dues to their members. So if you can come and you've had some alliance with them already, and it might come from your past and associations that were part of your profession, going back to them and saying, hey, I have a way we could both make some money and serve your members. And most of them will at least be interested in having that conversation.
Fabulous.
So you're just you're going to people who have the list, and you're making them a deal where you have access to their list, and then they get a piece of the revenue pie as a result of that.
Yeah, that's frankly the easiest way to get started.
That makes sense to me. Wish I'd thought of that.
You'll have to credit Rebecca there, Tom.
I will.
Just send me your revenue.
There we go.
Yeah.
Just like that, 10%.
10% is fine. Yeah.
No problem. The check's in the mail. So now, what if somebody can't really sell their product? Is there another way that they can, use that product to drive business or to get more business?
So I have some clients who are retailers or they're lawyers, CPAs, who don't feel comfortable selling a product in addition to their services. What they really want is more people buying their services. So for those people, we put together special, e-reports on the top 10 ways to save money with your attorney, or the top 10 ways to get the most value out of your attorney relationship. So I say, what are the top 10 things that trouble the clients that come to you? And it doesn't have to be 10, it could be 5. And then write a little few-page report on that, and that's their gift for coming, let's say, to the website or signing up for that person's e-zine. Or let's say it's just like a dry cleaner that you want to drive more business. Well, come into our dry cleaner and you get this special report on, the best way to get out the 10 most common stains, or, something related that is going to bring people in for something of value. And that could either be coming into the shop live, or it could be going to their website and registering to be on their, I call it my keeping in touch list instead of my e-zine list, because I don't think any of us want to be on another e-zine. But there's lots of people that say, oh yeah, I'd like to stay in touch. And so that's how I couch my mailing list.
I would like to jump in here with a question. Sorry, Tom. Am I?
No, please.
Cutting you off here? I'm not being very gentlemanly.
He's been hogging it. Go ahead.
Yeah. He tends to do that every now and then. Rebecca, I'm excited about your blogging. You have been number one in a number of really competitive keywords on Google, and I would love to know more about how you've done that. Can you share a little bit about your secret sauce there?
Well, sure. Well, some of my techniques I learned from Tom and other people that have been wise enough or kind enough to share things, and I've just cobbled them together into a strategy which frankly, again, no secrets here, but the most important thing I think is consistency. So with one blog, I blogged every day for 18 months, and within the first 6 months I was still having WordPress hosted, and it was one of the top 100 fastest growing blogs twice before I ported it off and hosted it myself. But part of that was just blogging every day, putting good content out every day, and then again, no secret, but tagging it. And this is something I see my clients don't do, is they tag each posting differently. And I believe that you need to tag it with the keywords you want to be found by first. So the first maybe 5 sets of keywords, so Google knows that that's what you are writing about. And then you rise pretty quickly depending on your competition. I have millions of competition. When I search my keywords. I'm always on the first page. I was #1 when I was writing every day for 18 months, and there were just millions of responses to my keywords, and I was lucky enough to get to the top, mostly for that reason. Also, comments and how you solicit comments and how valid are the comments, so making sure you delete all the spam comments, because your comments is part of why your website or blog looks viable to Google.
Now, that's a good question about contents, because we all want, whenever we post something, we're often wondering if we're just talking to an empty room. So do you have a particular method or approach or recommendation as far as getting people to comment and getting people to engage with you on your blog?
Yes. I've learned that people love to give advice. They love to give advice. So I may post a story with a point, and don't just say at the end, I love your comments. Nobody's gonna, who cares? So I ask specific questions related to that story or that point, and I say, so what would you do in a similar situation, or what would you advise Susan to do the next time she encounters this? And people come out of the woodwork to comment, because they just like their opinion to be seen or heard.
Wow. Now, Rebecca, that is a great idea. Because you're right, a lot of times we do ask for feedback generically, and maybe it's a typically Canadian thing to do to not be too direct about it, but that specifically sounds like a really dynamite idea. I had a question though too. Like you mentioned, you blogged every day for 18 months. How did you do it? Was that a big time commitment, and did you have an editorial schedule to know what you were going to be blogging about, or what was your process for that?
Prior to starting the blog that I blogged 18 months, I had already written 8 business books. So I was used to writing. I just wasn't used to writing consistently. So I had this point of view that I didn't have a lot of discipline in my life, which people like Tom or people who know me think is ludicrous. But there are some areas of my life that I felt I needed to strengthen my discipline muscle. So I was going to use this exercise as a way to really have more discipline, more rigor in my life. So that was my commitment to myself. Every day I would write and post a blog, and it could be 300 to 500 words, usually no more than 750 words. And so I wouldn't go to bed until I had posted a posting that day. So sometimes at 11:49, I'm looking at the clock going, what am I going to post about? But it really made me be conscious and aware of what my world was alike based upon the lens of my blog's topic. So every day I would say, oh, that's bloggable, or that conversation that I overheard in the coffee shop, I should write about that. And it just made me hyper conscious of my topic. And not that every posting was, Pulitzer Prize winning, but I got to be pretty good, and I got to be where I could write it in, and you could throw things 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow.
So, 300 words, frankly, is not that much. 350 words is a few paragraphs, but 750, and you go back, you refine it, you spell check, you make sure that it's good, and sometimes even after I posted it, I would go back and refine it when I read it the next day. But it really helped me have discipline. It helped me be hyper vigilant about my topic, and at the end of the 18 months, so you asked if I had an editorial calendar. Originally, I knew I was going to write a book on this, and so I was writing my book publicly so that I could get feedback, see which topics were of most interest, so I could write more about that. And at the end of the 18 months, I culled the best postings into a sample book, which I sent to a New York agent. He shopped it to the New York publishers. They weren't interested, so I kept writing after I had done that, and I had enough content for 13 books with original content in each one. In other words, there was no overlap. So that was one of the values of writing every day, was that content became books.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's part of my 25 books.
Were you also including, were you writing consciously with the right keywords or your particular keywords in mind as well? Was that part of why you got to #1 so quickly?
I prefer to do the keywords in the back end. So I use the thesis theme, and you can do SEO titles with the keywords independent of the title that gets published, because I'd rather be enticing to my reader with my titles and then in the back be enticing to Google. So my Google keywords are it always starts with the same string that I want to be known for, and then I append it with the title of that specific blog.
You know, one thing with that too, that, and I think readers ought to be aware of that, or listeners ought to be aware that Google and the other search engines are also getting much better at understanding language, and we don't have to use exactly the same set of keywords. We can now use kind of variations on that, and they're starting to understand synonyms and those kinds of things. So it's if you're writing along the same general theme, you can now add variety to your writing without feeling like you're violating, you know, the keyword rules or those kinds of things. But 18 months consistently along a fairly within a fairly narrow window that you were writing, was that part of the process?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because that's another problem. I see people have a blog that's all over the map. They put their personal stuff, they put business stuff, they have, 12 different topics. No, stick to one, because that's why people came to you and are following you, except for your mother, of course. She wants to know everything. But, your stranger readers or your fans that you've built up want to come to you and read about what they think you are an expert in. So stick to a lane, as they say.
Did you see as you wrote over time, did you start to develop a notice kind of a loyal readership developing as a result of this and your
Yes.
consistency?
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, Tom, is the Wall Street Journal called me and interviewed me even before I had the books. So in the old days, people said, oh, you're not going to get any media attention until you have books. And I got on a TV show, I got radio interviews, I got lots of media before any of the books were published
And, and they're
because of because of my ranking.
and they're finding you.
Yeah,
You don't have to
absolutely.
go knock on their doors. How
No.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That would be pretty gratifying.
Yes.
So you mentioned one mistake that that bloggers make, which is not to write with focus. What other mistakes do you see with bloggers, either whether they're kind of new to it or have been in it for a while?
I think they forget who their readers are, and it's that what they write is too self-focused. So if I am going to tell a story about something that happened to me in either of my blogs, I typically start with something that applies to my reader to hook them in, and then and then I'll segue transition into my story. Then I pull it back out at the end about how does this apply to you, share your stories, whatever it is, like we were talking about, to get them more engaged. Another thing I see them do is they don't really use their analytics to look at what people are eating and then write more to that. So every day I look at the keyword searches that brought people to my site. So then I can see what they want more of, and the other thing is they don't really know how to maximize their analytics. So I see a lot of, what we have called, Tom, for years, the toilet paper pages, where it's just ongoing content with no break. And that's counted as one hit. If someone comes to your page and reads 10 or 12 blog entries, that's one hit. So I always try to break each blog posting at a pivotal point. So I try to make it a little cliffhanger within the first paragraph or two, and I break it so they have to click the read more. So then I get to see which ones were enticing enough for them to read or interesting enough to read, and then I get better analytics again, so I know what to write for. Or I've even created products based upon what people came to me to find, and then I've created little e-reports or done a teleseminar on that topic, something that's revenue generating, because there were enough people that wanted that type of information that I just made a product that dug deeper.
You're really
You know,
focused, Rebecca. I really, that's so strategic.
Well, thank you, Susan.
Well, you know, that's something too that you made a good point. A default in a lot of blogs when you set them up is to create those toilet paper posts where you've got one blog after another. And people should realize that in the settings for their blogs, they can break that up where you have an index page that just lists a title and an excerpt from each blog, and it kind of creates that where then they can click through, and it makes it allows you, as you said, to both track what they're truly interested in, and it also, I think, makes it less intimidating and more inviting, more user-friendly for the person who's actually reading it.
And Tom, the key there, though, is I want to be in control of where it breaks, because I want to leave them at that cliffhanger. I want to leave them at, so what did Tom say next?
Exactly.
And then, you know, read more, or, you know,
Yeah.
you know, what stupid thing, you know, I want to control where that break happens.
Yeah, and not to get too technical, but you can either use excerpts in creating your post, which will allow you to craft those that little summary yourself, or you can use there's a little function called the more function, which allows you to kind of put that break wherever you want in your post. So a couple of technical tips from your Uncle Tom.
And I do use the more break to physically put that in. So Susan,
Great.
you started to say something, I think.
Yeah, you alluded to something just a second ago about creating products around what your readers, your visitors are interested in. And I know you have created, is it more than 500 teleseminars, Rebecca?
Yes.
In the last 10, 12 years. Wow, that's fabulous. How can people use those teleseminars to get income or to generate leads? Have you got some direct advice on that for us?
Well, so first of all, people poo-poo teleseminars. They say, oh, that's so, 2000, and it's really webinars now. Well, I think it really depends on your market. And one of my businesses is called speakernetnews.com, and that's a resource for speakers, trainers, consultants, authors from around the world, and they share best practices. So I interview industry experts, like I've interviewed you two, and we did it by phone versus webinar, because we find that people want to multitask their learning. So they will listen while they're driving, while they're working out, etc., versus to watch something. They are really very protective of that time because they can't really multitask. So they would much rather listen than be forced to listen and watch if the watching is not worth their full attention. So most people just do a PowerPoint presentation in their webinars, and it's just word slides, and there's nothing that really you have to look at. So our people really resent it if we don't allow them to multitask while they learn. So salespeople, for example, would rather have audio. Mobile professionals would rather have audio they can listen to while they're commuting. So don't poo-poo it. I've made probably $1 million on my teleseminars over the last 10 years. So don't poo-poo that that's a past technology, okay?
That gets my attention.
And the other piece of that was about, content. So you have to have really cutting edge content like your content with Clout, because if it's anything that they could find easily somewhere else, then they're not going to go for it. So all of our teleseminars are very focused on speakers, trainers, authors, consultants, and what would help them be better professionals, usually helping them make more money, but it could be helping them be better presenters, better writers, etc. And then we've developed a following of about 10,000 people, which is more than any of the professional associations, who get a free e-zine every week. And in that e-zine, they get to hear about the next upcoming teleseminar, but also the e-zine is full of best practice tips submitted by people like you guys who submit a good tip that we then push out to the 10,000 readers. And let me just pause, because one of the products that I alluded to was through the SpeakerNet news site, where we had a listing of some best practice tips on how to MC a meeting. So I was looking at the analytics and saw that that was one of the most visited pages on our site. And I said, how can I turn this into revenue? So we took off all the tips, but maybe a few. We added more, we fleshed it out, and we made it into a standalone ebook, which we sell for $4.95. And you say, well, you know, $4.95 isn't that much money, but we sell these day and night, from, you know, Joe Blow, who has to MC his, you know, niece's wedding, or, you know, they have a birthday party and this guy's never MC'd before and they want the instant gratification. And these are best practice tips from professional speakers, so they know what they're doing. And we sell those day in and day out, and it didn't cost us a thing. And then we coupled it with a teleseminar that we did with a professional MC. And so now we bundle that together with the report, and they can buy both for a discount. So, you know, you say, well, this isn't a lot of money that people are paying, but it adds up, and I would rather have more buyers at a smaller amount than a few buyers at a larger amount, because those buyers are going to come back and buy more.
Right. Well, you're making it easy for them to buy,
yes.
really.
Yes.
And just to kind of just kind of talk a little bit about the brilliance of Rebecca's approach. I've known Rebecca for many years now, and the whole SpeakerNet news dynamic is about getting other people, and we gladly do, to contribute the content. So she's got all these very professional people, accomplished people, who are giving her content every week, which then she's turning around and making money off of, which is brilliant. She's not sitting there sweating and wondering what piece of brilliant content am I going to have to create. She just taps into this kind of group dynamic. And in fact, when I first subscribed to SpeakerNet News, that's one of the it's not free. What the price for SpeakerNet News is that you're expected to submit a tip every quarter. Now, I don't know if everybody does that or not. 2 tips a quarter. Okay.
Yeah, you're behind, Tom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks.
He's watching you.
On my spreadsheet, you know, I have Tom only submitted 1.
But where did that inspiration come from? Did it just kind of fall out of the sky and hit you in the head, or did you just think, how am I going to make money off of this? Or
no, I need to give credit where credit is due. So I started what morphed into SpeakerNet News, and this is how old we are. It was an announcement to go onto an AOL chat every Monday at 4, and so he started with a few hundred speaker friends, and he would send us the announcement out every Friday to remind people to go on the chat on Monday, and he would include a few tips or little announcements about things that were happening. Well, 6 months into it, many of us really liked it, and we liked the chat, etc. Well, he lost his hard drive, which means he lost the several hundred users. So a month went by, 2 months went by, and a colleague, Ken Braley, and I both approached him independently without talking to each other, and said, you know, this was a cool thing. You want help restarting this? And he goes, oh, I've moved on to other things, but if you want to continue, go ahead. So Ken and I partnered up, and then we were a few years into it before I suggested we do advertising in it, because we were doing it as a labor of love, as a payback to our colleagues for all the things we'd learned from them. And then we started doing advertising, and then in 2000, I had started doing teleseminars in the late 1990s, and so brought that on board in, I think it was either 2000 or 2001, and we're sort of known for that product, and have done, as Susan said, over 500 of them now.
Well, I will tell you, it is SpeakerNet News, and we'll provide a link to for any viewers who want to subscribe. But it is guaranteed one of the emails that I absolutely open every week. It is just that valuable. It's not long, but it's full of tips, and not everyone is going to apply to everybody, you know. But I'll generally get 1 or 2 great ideas. out of that. So I thank you for that, Rebecca.
Yeah.
It's a
And by the
wonderful
way,
service.
that's
Thank
how I
you, Tom.
found Tom Gray, by the way, is I had signed up with SpeakerNet News, and
Oh,
this guy, Tom Gray, was doing a teleseminar, I guess it was, on search engine optimization, I guess it was, Tom, or driving traffic to your website. And I was hooked. It was
well,
so valuable, and here we are all
well,
these 3 years later.
well, Susan, I think you're really behind on your dues.
I'm definitely behind on my dues. I'm going to move, in fact, so you can't find me, Rebecca.
I have pictures of your living room, though. I can find you.
Have you seen this woman's living room?
Yeah.
Right, right.
Oh, there's a revenue generating opportunity. You could run a contest.
I guess, or just go to Mayor Rob, and I'm sure he'll.
Oh, don't even mention that name. Oh, gosh.
As far as I know, he hasn't smoked crack in Susan's living room,
Good.
so I think you're okay.
Yeah, I don't think we have video of that anywhere for sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a little bit hiding under the covers on that one, I tell you. We know how to pick them.
so Rebecca, kind of getting back into the focus here, if you could give just one piece of advice to help a business owner be more successful in their business, what would that be?
Well, I think it's really parallels to what you guys do, which is really look at your intellectual capital and say, how can I leverage this even more? So even if you are selling your advice, like we mentioned, the CPAs and attorneys and consultants, and then how could you morph that into a different product for those who either can't afford to hire you one-on-one or to do more as a mass? What could you do to deliver your content in a different vehicle that would help more people or address a different price point? So there may be things that you could do that are more expensive than what you're offering now or less expensive, but really leveraging your time and your content in a way that you're not currently doing. And the lucky thing I have with having interviewed over 500 exemplars in the speaking, training, consulting world is I know a lot of their models. And so that's why when people come to me, one colleague calls me the encyclopedia of speaking, training, consulting, because I have all this information that I kind of have to suss through to find what I think will fit that individual that will help them grow their business, make more money. And like my lifestyle is where I can make money in my jammies anywhere in the world. And this last year I did a 6-week round the world tour, and I made money every day, even though I was out on safari in Africa or I was in Thailand or wherever I was. I had money in my mailbox every day.
Nice.
And a lot of people would like to have that flexibility so that they're recession proof, blizzard proof, whatever it is, to their income. They're not subject to some of the things that have really hit other people hard.
And you've been at it for a while, though, eh, Rebecca? Sorry, Tom.
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up, Susan. Yes, I have been.
Well, no, I'm just thinking for people to have an expectation that they might be able to do that in 6 months. I mean, maybe it's possible, but you've built up first of all, you have incredible credibility, but you also have a great network of people to help with fulfillment, I'm sure, or you know how to do it yourself by now. But so from a timeline perspective, how long does it take to become successful at this?
Yeah, and it's so dependent upon the individual and their drive and action. I mean, I have a client in Scotland who in like 6 weeks had developed a series of webinars that she launched and bundled and got corporate to license it to have on their websites, and she was just a really go-getter. And I've had other people that have languished for years because they're not quite as motivated or as driven.
Right.
It sounds like to me that one way for a newcomer to this kind of venture to shortcut the process might be to work with you, Rebecca. So how, first of all, do you take new clients, and how would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to pursue that?
Sure. And in the makingmoneyinjammies.com site that I know you're going to link to, there's a whole page about working with me and what others have accomplished and what it costs and several options based on what would work best for them. And so I don't take everybody. So we do have an initial 15-minute conversation to see if I'm the right person for them and if they're in a position to really move forward, because some people, they just have too much going on in their lives to really make the investment right now. So I say, call me back in 3 months once you've moved or finalized your divorce or got that kid off to school or whatever it is, because you're not really, you don't have the mental bandwidth right now to really focus on this, which is what you really need to do.
Well, great.
So
And
go to your makingmoneyinyourjammies.com is your website, and then they can connect with you there. There's a link.
Right. And it's actually, there's no your in the URL. It's just making money
thank
in
you.
Jammies.
Okay.
Yeah, makingmoneyinjammies.com.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
if I've done my
Wonderful.
job right, that link is flashing across the screen even as we speak. So anyway.
All right, it's on you,
Good.
Tom.
It is on me. All right. Well, Rebecca, it's certainly been a pleasure speaking with you today. And are there any words of wisdom that you'd like to wrap this interview up with?
Well, I think that our listeners, our viewers need to just be more conscious of how their content does have clout, and that they can leverage that to better life, better revenue, and more happiness. How's that?
I think that's wonderful.
Beautiful. Bravo.
Well, thanks so much for spending the time with us, and hope to talk to you again soon.
All
Bye,
right,
Rebecca.
guys.
Thank you,
See you
Rebecca.
later. Bye.
Bye.